Hi all. Um, so this is a very short video about a Python application which is going to be deployed in AKS, and we'll be using workload identity to connect to Azure resource. So in this case, I'm using default Azure credential method, using which we'll be connecting to Azure resource, and we are using storage account for this demo. And this is a structure, and I have also created a GitHub repo which you can clone in your machine locally. Same way I have cloned it in my local machine, and I have executed certain script which I will show you now. And the right side I have also created two terminal, both a PowerShell terminal, one for infra, another one for app. So on the infrastructure I have completed all the script which I will show you so that we can save some time. I also added the list of commands that I have executed in the steps here. As you can see, this is the first command I executed. It's nothing but it's going to create a resource group called AKS demo RG. Followed by that, I have executed this particular command. It's nothing but to create AKS cluster. So after running this, you will be getting AKS cluster spin up in your subscription portal. And I'm scrolling down to show you the next command that I executed. That is to create ACR. ACR is nothing but Azure Container Registry. This is a place where we'll be having the Docker images that will be pushed, and it will be used in the deployment.yaml. And the next command I executed was this one, which is nothing but to attach the ACR to the AKS. And by doing this, we are avoiding the ACR pull rule for each respective user assigned managed identity for specific pod. By doing this, AKS will know from which container registry I need to look for the images which is referred in the deployment.yaml. And the next is the key thing. So this particular script, as you can see, I'm just enabling the workload identity feature on the AKS, and this two particular flag is the key thing here. One is OIDC issuer and the other one is workload identity. In this video, I'm not covering too deep. Perhaps I will create a separate video where I will show you what is OIDC issuer URL, how the Federated credential is linked to the token, where it's getting the token, etc. But not part of this video. Once this is enabled, this is a key thing. You can validate using this particular AZCLI script, which I have also did here. So as you can see, you can run the attached thing, and then followed by this, I executed enable part. So once enabled, in the AKS output, you will see the issuer OIDC issuer URL as output config. Here it is, and I'll cover later, but just to show the next step, I'll show that to validate whether it got successfully enabled, you can see the output required is true. As you can see, it's true. And next, what I did is I created a user assigned identity. Okay, so this identity will be used by the application, that is app.py, which will be deployed, and I'll show you what is the application I have written. So before that, let me cover this particular part. So once you execute this, you will get this output. I have stored this output in a JSON just to show you clearly. You will have a client ID and a principal ID. Client ID is the one which will be used by the service account, as you can see here, and it will be used to create a federated credential. And this client ID is as linked to service account. This service account will be linked to a deployment.yaml, and the deployment.yaml will be using the Docker image created using Dockerfile. And Dockerfile is nothing but the app.py, which we have written the Python application to connect the storage resource. Okay, I think now you are getting the link how the client ID is playing around with the federated credential and the workload identity credential. Okay, now going back to the README. So once I created the user assigned managed identity, I created a federated credential for workload identity. As you can see here, this is the command I executed for the service account app-wi-sa. Okay, that's what I have executed this, and you will be getting some output like this. Okay, next I created a storage account. So this is a easycla command I use storage account. So the output is we will get a storage account named AKS demo storage 123. Followed by that, a simple container called my container created in this particular storage account. Okay, and then once the storage account and container are created, I'm just granting the assigning to a principal ID. Like I mentioned, the client ID is the one which is used to connect everything. However, when we are granting a role assignment, it's always the principal ID which we'll be using it. Okay, that's the reason we have a two different client ID and principal ID. Principal ID is the one which we will be often using when granting a role to a particular scope. So in my case, I am granting this particular role called StorageBlob data contributor role to this principal ID to access this scope. This scope is nothing but storage account. So in the end, what I'm telling is, okay, this principal ID, you can access this particular resource and perform this action. So StorageBlob data contributor is a predefined role which has a list of actions that's relevant to the app.py to perform. So in my case, now I'm going to app.py. So what this app.py is nothing but a simple script which we all can get it from ChatGPT. It's just connecting to a storage account and simply uploading a txt file. But here the key thing. So here we are using a default Azure credential. When we are using a default Azure credential behind the screen, it will look for all the available credential setup, that is service principal authentication, SaaS token, and then managed identity, that is a pod managed identity, followed by a workload identity. Whichever is available, it will use that credential and connect to the Azure resource. So as you know, this is, of course, we can use workload identity method itself, which will start like workload identity underscore credential like that. But I would prefer using default Azure credential because in future, if workload identity is getting duplicated, you can always use the same code to connect with a different available credential approach. So to perform, coming back to action, to perform this upload, the role that we need is a storage blob data contributor role. Okay, that's the reason it's granted. Now we have a required roles are done. Now going back to app, so the infrastructure part is done. Now app part we will do together. I also listed the script here, so we will do it as I'm showing it now. So I'm logging to my ACR registry so that I can build the Docker image using the Docker file I have already written, and I'll show you the Docker file now. So in the Docker file is nothing but the app.py that I showed you. I'm copying that along with the requirement.txt. Requirement.txt is nothing but the dependencies that we need, the packages that will be used by the Python app. Okay, so this Docker file I'm going to build as image. I have also copied that Docker script. So for running this, you need to have a Docker running in your machine. So I have a Docker desktop in my machine already. And if you have any other tools, you can use that as well. So once you have the Docker image, I'm going to push into this particular ACR. So I will right click, enter. So I build the Docker image, then I push the Docker image. You can of course use ACR commands as well to create an image. You don't need specific Docker build and Docker push. You can use AZ script also. But since I had Docker desktop running, I preferred this approach. I have pushed it. Now let's see in the portal whether the image got pushed into registry or not. So our registry name is this one. So we'll click on the ACR. We'll click on this repo. Yeah, app-wi. As you can see here, app-wi is our repo, and this is our image tag, right? So app-wi and the image tag we are using is 1.0, and this is the digest ID, and the last modifier is 2:44 p.m. EST. Okay, so this is what exactly is available in our ACR. Now if we scroll down, we also listed the service account.yaml. As you can see, this service account is a very simple one, but the key thing to be noted here, this particular label. The label and the annotation is what it will make workload identity work. So this is not a random label. This is it's a pre-built label, azure.workload identity.identity/use. We need to mark it as true, or else a workload identity will not work. And the annotation as well is needed. So here we need to pass the user assigned managed identity that we created, and for which we also granted the RBAC using the principal ID associated with client ID. Okay, now if we go back to the service account, now let's see if it is edited already. So if we go to the output.json, this is the client ID. So I have copied this client ID. Okay, going to the service account, just pasting it. Okay, I think it's the same thing. And like I said, this is not a random label. This is a key thing to make the workload identity work. Now going back to the README. So we are good with service account. And this service account name is nothing but the one which we used for while running the federated credential. If I scroll up here, as you can see, this is the app-wi-sa at the time of federated credential. Okay. Now the same service account will be referred here as well. As you can see in the spec section of the deployment.yaml, the service account, two things to be noted. One is the service account. Second thing, here also we need to pass the label called Azure Workload Identity/use true. Okay, there are two places we need to pass the same label. And here if we go deployment.yaml, we have done the same thing. So one thing, the flag. Second thing, the service account that we created using this same flag, and the client ID we created, which is referred in the federated credential script. Now the image that we referred here is the one which we created, that is this thing. Okay, it's the same thing. So whatever image we pushed, we used in the Docker deployment.yaml, and this deployment.yaml is using the service account.yaml, and the Docker image is using this Docker file. This Docker file is using the app.py, that is a simple script. Okay, so we are good with all the request script, and now the final step is we are at the bottom. So let's apply the service account creation. Oh, path doesn't exist. I must have made some mistake. Why it doesn't exist? Okay, yeah, I think I need to correct it. So I have made a hyphen here. Let's run it. King. Oh, again another error. What's it's coming? Okay, all right. After creating AKS, I guess I did not run the AZ config setup, so you need to run that as well. So you can get the config script. All right, I did not add it here, so you can get the AZ config. If you can go to the AKS cluster, don't worry, I will add it in the README also. So you can see this credential config thing. So you can just copy this line, go back, right click, enter. All right, now it's merged. Now let's apply the service account.yaml. All right, we have a service account created, and now we will also run the next command, which is Kubernetes deployment.yaml. Right, enter. All right, we have a deployment.yaml also created. Let's validate whether the pods are up and running. Great, so we have the pod up and running. Let's run. Let's see if the required output as we need is showing or not. Right, perfect. The upload is successful and app is running and holding the pod, because that's what we have written. So as you can see, we need to make sure this upload successful is printing and the app is running, and we also should have the text.txt in this particular storage account. In this container, this txt should be stored. Let's validate the final validation, and this is what it is. So here we have this particular one, and we have some reference link that I went through it, so it's also there in the GitHub, and you can also refer this link for official documentation. Now let's go to the storage account resource. That is, in this case, this is, and if we go to the data storage containers, my container and txt is there, which we created just now. So if I need to view raw, I think I can do it. Can click on this and view edit. Perfect. This is what we have mentioned in the script, that when we are writing, it should be this to the blob txt test.txt. Okay, I think we are good with it. The next video, what I'm planning is there are a few things I'm thinking, either to dig deep into the workload entity OIDC sure URL, how the token fetching happens, or I'm thinking whether I should do a video on some APM policies. Right now we all are using AIs, so how we can use APM policy to trace the tokens, the input tokens, the prompt tokens, output tokens, how to rate limit on them, how to create a custom metrics that we can track the usages, etc. So I have this list, but if you guys feel like you have something to be covered, just ping in the comment section, or you can just see my upcoming videos, and if you feel comfortable, feel free to share to others as well. Thank you then. Thanks all. Bye bye.